All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian Primer's Tribeca Trade Group, and here's your market and option recap for May 3rd, Thursday. So we got a nice reversal, and we actually finished higher than we opened. So nice little move here, and right at the nick of time for the day or for the daily chart. Notice where we are here. I think a lot of people are drawing a bottom support line in here. I'm just using the 200-day moving average, but as you know, I also look at the value areas again, which really gives us some good and support and resistance levels, and we managed to close inside value. I mean, it looked pretty bad around like 11 o'clock this morning, but we're back inside. I think this is, I guess I would view it as a positive for the day. We did not reclaim any of the short-term moving averages, but I think you have to view this as a victory for now, for the day, that we finished inside value and managed to bounce off the lows. So that's S&P. And of course, I'll talk about today's option flow in a second. Nasdaq, same thing, hammer bar. So a lot of hammer bars you're going to see on today's charts. Nasdaq still same thing below the short-term moving averages, but basically right around where we opened. We actually were up 40 basis points on the day. Small caps, which we could see as well, small caps, and they actually saw a little bit of call buying today. They actually underperformed, but you could see a hammer bar there. They were only they were down. They did finish down 0.5%. The weakness in the financials, I think, brought them down. The financials were down about 1%. Both the banking ETFs that I look at. So that did say I'll show you the IWM call activity. We'll talk a little bit about the put activity today. I think a lot of hedging at the last minute kind of thing. This obviously I think is you can see some puts were bought earlier, June 130s out of the money puts, as a safety. But I think this is interesting. Next week's calls, 156 calls bought for 57 cents. So while I'm talking about the indices, might as well go over the index puts. Look at the SPY put orders. So I think people, once we start to get to that 200-day moving average, this again is not, to me, smart money doing this. This is, oh my God, the market is moving down, I need to hedge. I'm guessing, I don't know, because I'm not the buyer of this, but some big stuff, $3.3 million notional on this one. This happened pretty close to the low of the day, about 1026. There's a couple other orders that were in here, so big put activity. And again, the smart money bought puts, weeks ago. This to me is kind of the dumb money. They're frantically buying puts as the market starts to move. Same thing on the call side. When we see call activity go up on the highs, that to me is not the really good orders. That to me is people chasing momentum. So that's what we saw on the index side. And I think my 2 cents on this market volatility. It seems that we really move on this tariff. Whether or not there's going to be this trade war, which either is going to get worse or is going to get better. Sounds like Mnuchin, Kudlow are going to be out there in China, and who knows, they may make some headway. And I think that will give the market a relief. I think really that's what is moving the market, not so much earnings. I think earnings are completely secondary right now. I think people are using strong earnings to kind of take profits and see what happens if there's going to be a trade war. What kind of really gave me a sense of this today was the economics that came out, and I don't think I have the comment anymore, but in today's economics in the ISM numbers, the ISM, remember, is a survey. So one of the comments from the survey for the ISM numbers that slipped a little bit this month. Remember, the ISM is a leading indicator, and it also, the ISM, if it's greater than 50, it's expansionary. This came out at 10 o'clock this morning, and this was 56.8. They were looking for a 58, but one of the comments from the survey was that people are starting to get worried about, businesses are getting worried about tariffs. So when that happens, business confidence goes down, they invest less, and I think that is really what's driving the market. So until that gets resolved, whether it happens in a good way or whatever, it's kind of holding the market captive. So bottom line there is continue to kind of position lighter. The market is giving us some great opportunities to scalp. We did that this morning. I was riding some puts down. I went long some puts from yesterday. I also just kind of unwound some of my longs. I just had a feeling that we were going to get, at least in the morning, a flush out day. And, I've been calling this market pretty well with that. So I got out of my puts around lunchtime today, I think maybe a little bit before, and had some nice profits on those. I think I bought the May puts, I forget what strike, but around $1.25 and took them off for like a 250 today. And then on the long side, I started to look for some longs. Once the market does that flush out, and it looked like we were holding on, and the VIX started to sell off a little bit. The VIX started to kind of come in a little bit. I was either ready to kind of push more to the downside, but once I saw us kind of break in here, I started to look for some longs. What did I play immediately for the long side? I noticed how many price target raises that we got from Tableau software for analysts. It finished off the highs, but very strong. But another company right in this space of kind of data collection is Splunk. So I put on Splunk. It was down this morning. It did not get any lift off the open off of data, and or Tableau software. Data is the symbol. And I bought some calls for June, and I took a target up here. It came back in here once the market took that second dive lower, and I added them back on the bottom of value. I purchased a little bit more than what my original purchase price was on that first 5-minute bar, and this ended up being a big winner. So, as long as we're finding these, that I'm finding these opportunities, I think we're doing a really good job in this market of scalping. And then, you can kind of continue to take these trades off in the day, and then if we're going to get more red for whatever reason, you could put these trades right back on or get opportunities. And that's, by the way, is really, you go back to what this group that I've been talking about now for a while, but your Salesforce, when the market just, S&P finished down, SPY was down 22 basis points, but it just shows you that these names, they want to run. They just, once we get out of having down 1.5% days, this group is really where the strength is. And again, you look at Salesforce, and you go back to the S&P chart, which is breaking down, hanging by a thread right now, and you look at Salesforce, you look at Adobe, which had a nice day today as well. Really nice candle, by the way, and Adobe. We talked about this one. Pre-market, and yesterday we talked about Adobe. Looked like it was getting ready to go. I didn't even need a green day, but up. Look at this, up 2.2% on a day where the Qs finished flat and SPY finished down 20 basis points. So here's your market strength. These names want to go higher. We just need this market to not crumble. All we need is basically flat days, and these names are going to outperform. Workday was another name up 1.8%. Coop was a name that was on. Kramer, I still did not see the interview yet. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but this name was up 4.7%. Saw a little bit of call buying as well. So, and a lot of these names, some of these names, they've seen a little bit of call buying. Other than that, some of them don't. So I always get the question on Twitter or wherever, well, hey, look at the strength in this name. Was there calls bought? No, there doesn't have to be calls bought for a name to go up. it just doesn't. It's not the way it works. Does it help when somebody buys calls aggressively? Absolutely. But names don't have to go up. Names don't have to see call buying to go up. I mentioned this PayPal. This PayPal. I've been following this call buyer, even though I think that the chart does not look good at all. I took some. I was able to take that trade off, but they keep buying these October calls. October is where they are living, and what's nice about this order flow, then here's what's nice about option activity, especially the really savvy guys who are the traders. Not only do they buy, they started buying PayPal calls after they reported earnings. They kind of fizzled on earnings, went down. That's where they bought the calls originally. and then they keep buying them on the big red days. They bought them on the lows today. They bought them on the lows yesterday. So someone is pretty adamant about being bullish about PayPal. Do I know what they know? No, but for now I've been kind of following pretty light because I don't like the chart here in PayPal, but I'm participating every time they do. And I bought PayPal's. I reloaded on PayPal calls this morning on the open. A few other names to kind of go over. Yeah, I mean, this name was already strong. It kind of looked like a momentum player today, and Coop, who was adding on the highs. Pepsi, I've talked. Sometimes I repeated this already because I talked about this in the trading room. But this Pepsi, if you're looking for a counter trend trade, I normally trade, out of every 10 trades. I would say 1 out of every 10 is a counter trend trade for me. I just don't trade too much against a big downtrend, but this name looks pretty oversold. So they bought not this week's but next week's calls in Pepsi. I think this name is really ripe for a bounce. Again, for a trade, not an investment. If it pops 2% or 3%, get out and take your profits. But they bought some calls. Also, there seem to be some trades. Considering Mnuchin and Kudlow are over in China, there seemed to be some trades that were based on some optimism that something is going to happen there. If you look at some groups that really have gotten affected by this ongoing saga with China, the semiconductors have been one group that has really gotten smoked. Some nice call buying in the semiconductor ETF. And there was also some weeklies bought, if I can find this. There was some spreads, and then there was some outright calls as well in the semiconductor ETF. You could see August 110s, a total of 25,000 of those traded. And it also looked like some puts were sold as well. So maybe they took some profits there. Not exactly a hammer candle, but close to it, almost back above the 200-day moving average. A few other trades. It's funny because NVIDIA also had some nice strength today, and we saw a call buyer right before the close. That name got upgraded today and had some momentum to it. It's still not above the 50-day moving average. This is where it stalled last time, but I would keep an eye on NVIDIA, maybe look for a run into earnings. Some good volume. By the way, some good volume overall. I talked about that. I sent that out on Twitter today. Where's my volume tracking sheet? I think this is it here. Nope, it's international. Oh, I don't have it up anymore. Oh, here it is. Yeah, take a look at the volume today. We'll start with SPY, or we'll start with the heaviest volume. Look at SPY traded. Actually, it was 80% more than normal. Around lunchtime, it looks like it cooled off a bit. 135 million shares. EEM traded 20% more than normal. TVIX and VXX traded a lot of volume. So did FXI. XLI, the industrial ETF, traded 70% more than average volume. So really volume ticked up a lot. The last few days, it's been, SPY's traded about 20 to 30% less than average volume over the last week. It's been very quiet with volume until today. So pretty interesting there. But on the highs today, I think and this is what's good about option activity. You could kind of see where people are buying. Once we kind of rallied from the lows, it got quiet again in option activity. We didn't see anybody really looking to kind of push this market to the upside. So we're getting bounces, but again, you cannot. For me, anyway, I'm not chasing any green. I think that you have to take profits, and you kind of set up again with a big cash balance and wait for a big flush out to put some risk on into some select names. All right, so that's it for today's market recap. Thanks for watching, and have a great evening. Go Yanks.